So I'm here in a little bit of a different capacity today because I have the great joy of being in conversation with Carol Look. Carol, thank you so much for being here.
Prune, what a pleasure to talk to you, get to talk to you again.
Carol and I met recently at an ASEP conference. So, a conference for people interested in energy, interested in healing, interested in energy psychology. And Carol is a founding EFT master, psychotherapist, and a phenomenal best-selling author. And actually, Carol, we had such a wonderful time, didn't we? Because there was an announcement in the conference that all authors were to come together in the sales room in order to sign books as people bought them. And there ended up being an amazing group of us sitting together at a table. And that definitely was one of the highlights for me. And Carol and I got to sit together and really chat. So that was a real joy, Carol. So, some people will not at all be familiar with EFT. That won't even mean anything. So, can we start there? Help us understand what it is.
So, EFT is now commonly referred to just as tapping. And what we're doing is tapping on acupuncture points on the face and the body while we're talking about and clearing something stressful or distressing or upsetting to us. So, what we do is we tune into something that we want to clear, something that bothers us. And at the same time, we tap on these points. And what it does is it sends calming signals to the brain at the same time. So you're pairing what you're upset about with calming signals, and it calms down the nervous system. So everybody's talking about the nervous system. What do we do about it? Well, one of the things we can do about it is tap on old traumas, current fears, past beliefs, worries about the future. And we do this process and work through and talk about it and let the person really resolve what, again, happened in the past, is going on now, or they're worried about in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So powerful. And I have worked with energy psychology techniques for probably about 25 years now, just for context for those who know me in different places of energy understandings. It's really amazing what happens in our energy system when we're working with tapping. But it makes me curious, Carol. How did you get into it? What inspired you to take kind of the pretty radical step of embracing something that was, although increasingly understood through our modern science by our practice-based evidence and our increasing understanding of how complementary therapies could actually be utterly mainstream too, is a radical step for you. Share
Yes.
with us how you got into it.
Well, it was radical because I was trained as a traditional psychotherapist. So just regular psychotherapy. I worked in an agency and I wanted more. And I got my doctoral degree in hypnosis, clinical hypnotherapy. And that was fascinating. And I loved it, and how the brain works and the unconscious, all of that I loved. And somebody in my hypnosis class said, "You think this is fun? You ought to try this weird new thing named tapping." I'm like, named EFT tapping. I said, "What are you talking? You tap on, she tried to explain it to me. I was interested enough to take my first class. And once I took my first class, I was totally skeptical. I want people to understand that, like as skeptical as anybody could be, and riveted. Absolutely. You could not get my eyes off people practicing, talking about it, reading about it. And then when you're a hypnotist, people come to you and say, "You are my last resort. I've tried everything. I can't quit smoking. I can't lose weight. I have anxiety issues." So that's what the kind of client you get when you're a hypnotist. And I was still doing my traditional work with addictions, etc. And people would come and say, "I can't stop eating, drinking, smoking." And I would say, I've learned this new self stress relief technique, the self help technique. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to you for 5 minutes. And if you don't like it, I'll give you the 5 minutes at the end of the session. And we'll still do trances, and I'll still do hypnosis and whatever. And who's not open to that? Right. I'd give them
Mm-hmm.
the time. Nobody would lose anything. And and this is when I was still skeptical, one after the other said, "What just happened?"
Mm.
And so they weren't feeling a craving, let's say, right in the moment. They weren't wanting to go smoke or drink or eat, but they could feel the calming effect on their nervous system and on this background anxiety. And that's how I came to it in general myself, not just to that, but to psychotherapy. I was born anxious and then was raised in a very anxious family with lots of stuff going on. So I needed it, and I knew I needed the tool myself. So I was practicing on myself. But with these clients, I was just saying, oh, 5 minutes. It's really easy. I'll teach you how to do it. I'm not going to touch you. I'm going to show you how to do it and what to say. And every single one said, I don't get it. Some of them said, I don't care why. I'm coming back next week. And I'd give them homework to do. And they said, this is different, 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 different. So that's what kept me in, because I was still a skeptic. Okay, so 7 clients said that and 4 said this, and I'm feeling something different, but I need a lot of proof. I need a lot of show me. So, but that was the beginning of it. And the rest is history. That was more than 25 years ago for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it? And it's amazing how when I watch people working with EFT or any of the energy psychology techniques, actually, EFT is a very specific form. I always think of energy healing as being a huge umbrella term, and then under this umbrella, there's bigger sections: shamanism, energy psychology, energy practices. So, kind of understanding that you're talking about the big umbrella of energy healing with the smaller silo of energy psychology, and then EFT being a form of it. And I got to witness David Feinstein. One of my earliest times of seeing it working in a really powerful way was witnessing David Feinstein, who, like you, was one of the very beginners of the modality, working with a woman who was terrified of birds of any kind. And she was in her 70s by that point. We were at a training class in a beach area, and she had never walked on a beach in her life because of seagulls, because of the fear of seagulls. And it took about 40 minutes of David, in his expertise, working with a round of tapping, for her to feel not just that the fear had dissipated, but the thought of engaging in the world again, on the beach with birds around, had dissipated. And the next day, of course, because we were in a class, she came in tears that she had just gone for her first ever walk on the beach. And a bird had landed in front of her, and she'd looked at this seagull, and she'd been amazed at how beautiful they were. I mean, what power. It's astonishing how I think one of the challenges actually is that it's too simple. It's too simple. We think we need medication. We need years and years of deep diving into the challenge of how to resolve these, my language here, how to resolve these energetic glitches in our systems. And the thought that you could work with some sequences of tapping, and that something that you've struggled with for decades could be enfolded back into the harmony of your energy field. It just feels too woo-woo.
Too woo-woo. And that story is routine. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're afraid of birds or snakes or flying or of your boss, afraid of success, afraid of failure, it doesn't matter. That happens over and over. And as you and I have been in the field for 25 years, over and over. Yeah. And sometimes we can lose the surprise over that, which we shouldn't lose, right? But it is so exciting to have someone be relieved and relaxed and say, I feel whole again. This part of my life that was limiting me, I'm no longer avoiding that. Someone called me and said they were afraid to come. They couldn't come visit me in New York because they were afraid of the subway, right? And they didn't want to go to the workshop in the building because the building had an elevator. It's like, well, that's a limited life. So people say, well, how do I know if I have limiting beliefs? Well, look at your life. Yeah. Where have you stayed small? This woman couldn't go to the beach, couldn't enjoy nature, couldn't enjoy birds, right? Where have you put yourself to protect yourself so that you don't bump into whatever your fears are? And that it started as a phobia treatment long before us. And I think cravings, phobias and cravings. And then it's just expanded to pain control, health issues, fears, phobias, worries
Yeah.
about success, we're fighting in arguments, and veterans have used it. That was a big deal when I worked with Gary Craig with the
Yeah.
veterans. There's just trauma. There's not a single human being, Prune, that you and I have not met who hasn't had 1, 2, 3, or 3 million traumas.
Yeah.
Now they could be small T trauma, large T trauma. I supervise a lot of clients and practitioners, and I say, stop looking for the big car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Stop looking for the sudden death when the person was 10. Those are terrible. But you know what else happens? We get traumatized by sudden surprises from our teacher, from someone laughing at us, from the coach on the soccer team, from the parent, from the sibling. We get all these surprises that go in our body. They get lodged and stuck there. They need an energy therapy, whether it's tapping or something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely agree. And that place of the building of resilience, isn't it? That actually,
Yes.
if you can empower somebody to understand how to tap one of those places where they're not engaging in their fullness, whatever it is. I mean, trauma is such a massive word, isn't it?
Yes.
And one person's trauma may be another person's utter relaxation. So we
Yeah.
can try and we can get very locked into what trauma is or isn't. And also, a beautiful, beautiful teacher of mine, Kathleen Matthews, she would talk about how people hold their traumas closer to themselves than they hold their soul, because it's something that takes such protection of ourselves. So the place of being able to empower yourself. I
Yes.
mean, you use it in your own life, Carol. This isn't something that you only do with clients. I remember you mentioned if somebody laughed at you. When I was 11, I was asked to be, so last year of my junior school, I could sing, didn't think anything about it. Like, yeah, I can sing. There was no self-consciousness around singing. And I was asked to be the lead in a pretty big musical that the school was doing. And so I did it. And, sometimes I sang really, really well. And sometimes I didn't quite hit the notes. And who cared? Until it came to our dress rehearsal, in which case we were doing it in front of a couple of classes. And my voice broke a tiny bit on a note and everybody laughed. Well, I was 11. And that set me up for
Yes.
20 years of being frightened of speaking in public.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And for someone else, they would have laughed with that as well. They'd be like, oh, my voice broke, and that was funny. For me, that shattered a level of confidence. And I still did speak up in class, but, my heart would be pounding. It would have to take an incredible amount of courage and will. And that was one of the ways that really opened my awareness to the power of tapping. Because in one session, that shifted. And I went to, raise my hand or speak in a public event or a group, and the heart wasn't pounding. There was no stress. It was easy. So it's an amazing therapy. And of course, we're beginning to see mention of it in mainstream culture now. So it is fascinating how it's no longer being such an edge. I mean, I teach it to children. I'm assuming, Carol, you work a lot with empowering parents, kids, communities to also be working with it.
Well, the humiliation, being laughed at, got wired into your system the second it happened. And there's not anybody listening who wouldn't say, oh, I've never had one of those as a kid. Every single one of us has had many, not ill-intended, not someone trying to be mean. Some of them were the person trying to be mean. And that's why it's so powerful. That's why people from all walks of life can say, oh, I could use that. I was just interviewed on a podcast last night, and the guy said, I need to talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm going to be doing sessions with him on the most severe traumas I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And because every human being, if you are walking in a body right now, you've had something that upset you, traumatized you, scared you, threatened you, right? The definition of trauma, again, it can be pretty big, pretty broad, but most people say, did you feel helpless? Did you feel scared? And did you feel trapped?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that
Beautiful.
you were 6 and someone stole your toy in the sandbox. I mean, that's why I say to people, stop looking for that big car accident.
Yeah.
It's much smaller, right?
Yeah. I want to kind of put it within a framework of energy because, of course, that's my thing. Um, so, so I just want to back it up here because there will be people who are like, well, why? Why does it work? Yeah, she said it works with the nervous system. She said it soothes the brain, but why? And I want to talk a little bit about that energy of that. Because it's really foundational. And I think when we can hold the foundational knowledge, we have a deeper trust in exploration. And we don't have to know the story, but let's just have a go at this. So, if we take as our first premise, as Einstein and many others have informed us, that everything is energy, then it means that you right now are an amazing, beautiful, very harmonious energy field. I right now am an energy field, and that our energy systems are always in service to our becoming. And I love that. Every part of me is moving in patterns, in places of connectivity as a field of energy that are looking to express even more of me. So that's healing, that's health, that's harmony, that's balance. And as we go through our life, these small or big T traumas that come in, they set a coding into, so that person laughing at me set a coding into the pattern. So the information held, energy is just information. The coding now is one that it's not safe for me to speak up, or whatever it is, the world isn't safe for me, whatever the particular effect of the trauma is. So that's now held in this kind of disrupted habit. The energy fields can no longer move in their fullness. There's a habit, and our energy fields are so wise. Every part of our energy anatomy is wise. And so our chakras adjust to this new pattern. Our aura adjusts to this new pattern. But meanwhile, there's the song of our soul, our deep essential energetic energy that's inviting harmony. So now we've got a conflict. We've got a conflict between systems looking for balance and this kind of energetic glitch. Let's call it that. So into that glitch that keeps repeating and keeps repeating because we're looking for harmony. And that's key, isn't it? It's not kind of a joke that, oh, we're here in this powerless human form and I'm running trauma patterns. It's that actually, for the sake of our deeper emergence, this is something that we're moving through so that we can come into greater fullness. So now we've got this little glitch. Now along comes Carol or me or anybody who knows how to tap. And you start working with really powerful portal points into our connective energy anatomy. And those portal points, when someone's tapping them, so these are normally end points of energy channels, meridians, when people are tapping them, it's sending a new vibrational pulse through that. And it's being done with an intention, the place of fear or of inviting safety, whatever it is, whatever words that we're finding around it. So as we tap, this pulse gets pushed through our energy channels, and from there begins to emanate out so that that little glitch is now able to be enfolded back in to the whole. Amazing! Like utterly phenomenal. That's something that could have taken 3 years of talk therapy or 3 years of conscious mindful meditation around it can happen so quickly. And one thing, I don't know if you've really noticed, Carol, but one thing I've really noticed is that the more grounded a person is, the more that energetic glitch and the coding in it gets carried out of our system in its fullness. I have seen that when people really struggle with groundedness or don't understand what it is, that the energetic coding kind of can get a bit dispersed and muddle the system a little bit. Sometimes what I see is that if someone is really electromagnetically ungrounded. So they're if you're testing to see if they're grounded or you're breathing with them to help empower grounding, it's almost like I bet you haven't seen it very much because you would always, through your being, through the transmission of your own energy, help that person be grounded. But I've definitely seen it where people have worked with energy psychology and the pattern gets broken up. But as it begins to move through the system, it almost becomes energetic static in their system. And then it comes back in, but now it can settle anywhere, but it's still holding signatures of the old trauma. So now, you were tapping on your mom in this situation, and now suddenly you're tapping on a dog in this situation, and it doesn't quite gel, but it's because their energy system wasn't able to do the kind of fuller aspect of the healing. Does that make sense?
So if we don't have our center, if we're not grounded and feel in integrity, right? Lots of things can happen. Mostly we get confused and our wires are crossed. So we're basically wired for safety, which is why we protect ourselves. So some people protect themselves by being ungrounded. Some people protect themselves by procrastinating. Some people protect themselves by, oh no, I'm fine. I don't need healing. When their lives are troubled, challenges are all over the place. They're fighting with their spouse and their boss and their sister. So we need to be centered for anything to work well, right? If you're scattered and you're trying to meditate, that doesn't work well either. So
sure.
I just, part of the process of healing is having people come back to themselves. What's their true yes? What do they really want? I've had people say, well, my husband wants me to work on this. I am not working on that. I want to know what you want to work on, right? Well, my sister says if I don't do it, right? Yeah. So we've got to be regrounded, recentered, and then what do we want to work on? What's a problem for us?
Yeah, right? Beautiful.
What needs to be agree. Right? What needs to be healed? And then there are unintended consequences. So the first thing that let's call it healed on myself without focusing on it was intense chronic insomnia because I was tapping on anybody I could. I'll give you 5 minutes, do this, try this, do this, all over the place. And it calmed down my nervous system. I was never not tired. The problem wasn't that I was tired. The problem was that I was anxious and up at night worrying. I had an intense job that was very troubling. And once it calmed down my nervous system enough, of course, my body was tired enough and I would slip into sleep. And I woke up one morning and said, I think I slept last night. That's weird. I haven't slept in a long time. Well, of course, you sleep. Even with insomnia, you get hours of sleep. And then, of course, the unintended consequences is that changed my health. I wasn't going for health issues, even though I had been popping tumors. I'd had tumor here, tumor there, tumor there. But of course, your health changes dramatically. So again, I had to get centered enough to heal the anxiety enough to get some good sleep before I could start working, which I didn't work directly on the tumors, working on my physical health. So a lot of times people come in and they want to talk about the 10th thing on their list. And it's really, we really need to talk about foundational challenges. What's really going on? And many times people are saying, well, I don't want to deal with the childhood traumas. I want to deal with my boss who's a jerk. And I think, well, the reason you're with a boss and putting up with it who's a jerk is because you learned some pattern in childhood. So again, your idea of like getting back to the groundedness, getting back to the foundation, we've got to start there. Now, if someone comes in and won't go there, what are you going to do? Make them go there? Right? They come in with a symptom. We know that. We start with symptoms sometimes, emotional symptoms or physical symptoms, and we back into what the real problem is.
So, and also, of course, as you're tapping, you're creating space.
Yes.
And then from the space comes more resilience. And from that place of resilience, then we're willing to allow something to be revealed inside us, aren't we? Like, I think that's the most amazing way of working with any energy modality. We don't always have to chase the biggies as we are willing to kind of reposition ourselves, even with our longing to be whole, to be well. I always find that one of the most powerful motivators in us. And Carol, I'm gonna pick something up here. You said something which I'm very interested by, and I absolutely agree as a truth. And I absolutely want to open it up. You said we are wired for safety. Do you think we have to be? Could we be also wired for joy, wired for creativity? Because I kind of feel like at this point in our human consciousness, we've been around now for a long, long, long time. And yes, those saber-toothed tigers still govern a lot of our nervous system. But it does feel like there is the potential inside us. I mean, my book, Your Radiant Soul, I'm not talking about us being wired for safety there. And of course, safety is of great importance. But I feel there's also this, at the moment, we're in the bridging of paradigms. We're in the bridging between what has been and what can be much more easily, not if you spent 20 years up a mountain in China.
Yes.
And so I really agree that we're wired for safety. And I do feel like we have this massive invitation to be rewiring ourselves into fullness, into joy, into being able to say, this is an unsafe situation for me. I will remove myself from it because I have resilience, because I have that capacity. What do you think of that?
So, what I think is that we are wired for safety first, and nobody's going to feel the joy if they don't feel safe there. So, I'm all on board with you, wired for, that we want to be joyful and embracing and our consciousness, all of that. But if you don't feel safe because of what happened to you when you were 2, 4, 6, or 8, the joy is not available to you.
Yeah. So,
So
what you're bringing forward there then is a collective mind set shift.
Well,
because I'm just thinking about like someone who's sitting outside a temple in India with no food, no possession, some of the most joyful people, and we know from our happiness studies, some of the most joyful people that exist in our world. Now, we could say that they have zero understandings of what we would say we need for safety. So we know it's not circumstance, it's
right.
our relationship with circumstance.
It's our nervous system
Yeah.
again. So when somebody doesn't feel safe going to their traumas, they won't go there.
Yeah.
When someone doesn't feel safe, feeling happy and joyful, they'll get in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone
sure.
doesn't feel settled and doesn't have the space to be able to share what they need to talk about, they won't go there.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to have the idea we're all wired for joy, maybe, but not if you've been raised in a family where there's any challenges to it. There are families where that was number one, and that's fabulous. But all people of all ages have to feel safe to feel happiness, or your nervous system can't do it. So that's what I mean by wired for safety. So it comes first, no matter what. So people will say, as kids, they were joyful, and then something happened. Oh, what happened? Well, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this story. I was skipping along, feeling happy, and someone emotionally smacked me down.
Yeah.
So there goes the connection between joy and safety. I watch my nieces and nephews, and they are just, they are full of joy, right? Full of joy until something happens. And then they get wired as, oops, be careful, be quiet, don't shine too much, keep a lid on it.
Yeah.
So the joy is there naturally, absolutely, but it gets covered over by layers and layers and layers of behavior and punishment and society saying, don't do this, do this. So we're actually taught out of our joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Taught out of our fullness, aren't we?
Yes.
And then the healing journey, the soul's journey is to rediscover it. And amazing that EFT and any energy practices can be such a powerful, powerful, simple, profound way to inspire that.
Well, I
Carol, I want to talk about your fabulous books because I know that we could talk up an absolute storm forever.
want to
But
say one other thing, if that's all right.
please,
Say one
please.
other thing about energy. So, as a traditionally trained psychotherapist, I love the work. I still do it. But the reason you can't talk yourself out of trauma is that it got lodged in the body and in the cells and in the nervous system and in the energy body.
Yeah.
And once people get that as practitioners of any modality, right, something changes inside them, I think. And something changes in how you treat people, how you help them, and how you see the whole picture.
Yeah.
So talk therapy will be around forever. I love it. I'm so happy that people feel safe enough to say what they need to say. And then we need to access space in the energy body, in the nervous system, in your bones. We need to access everything else.
Yeah.
And that's why it falls short. And that's why the trauma work in the last, decade or 15 years, maybe, that's why trauma work has included so beautiful energy techniques.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, when we think about talk therapy, words are energy as well. So the potential for transformation is there. But when we talk about kind of that little pulse going in differently and inviting something different, and of course, it doesn't have to be either or. When you're working with energy practices, you're also working with words, and that will be one of your immense skills, Carol. So then you're weaving the words, the understandings, the story, because story helps us make sense of things. So you're weaving all of that together. For me, our energy anatomy is the foundation of all of our health, our physical health, words, emotions, thoughts, feelings, they're all energy. So when we can weave these understandings together, as you do in your practice, as your beautiful books shine their wisdom through, then we're working in really empowered ways.
And when you use energy therapy, I don't care which kind you use, on yourself as a practitioner, things start to shift. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I thought, oh, that's strange. I don't care what you call it, intuition, ESP, intuitive guidance, downloading, came back online.
Yeah.
That helped my work.
Yeah.
It helped me, of course, in my personal life, but it helped my work. And people would literally say, how did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm available, because I've made space, because I'm no longer got that monkey chatter in my mind. And because when you are peaceful and in your own energetic, let's use the word integrity, you actually can access, as you know, other information.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
absolutely.
It's just, that may sound strange to a lot of people, but again, heal thyself as a practitioner, right? Get stabilized, get centered, get rid of your agendas, and so much can change in the room with the person or the group.
Absolutely.
As you know.
I mean, it's one of the beautiful things, isn't it? The more you can be a harmonized field, then all energy fields around you. So the more you are harmony as an individual, then the effect of that harmony. That's one of the things that I absolutely love watching in a room, where you perhaps would have seen the studies. It fascinated me, where somebody walked into a restaurant and people around, sitting around, eating. It's quite a high quality restaurant. So lots of people with their glasses of wine, very relaxed. And somebody walks in and he sits with three other people and he just starts eating. Okay. No talking, just in that stress way.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, the people at his table do the same. And then the other people who can't see him, it's not that it's a seen response, it's that field response. So the way that the place of hardwire, of stress, of fear, of safety gets moved through a field of human beings, and of course animals as well. And likewise, that when you put someone, it was a beautiful, in part of the research I was watching, somebody got on a bus and was just beaming. She was an absolutely immense, beautiful energy. And she just sat there and she just smiled and breathed. And how the people, there was tension around, how all of the people on the bus also began to really experience more peace. So that place of us as, in this case, you're talking about the therapists themselves or the practitioner themselves, the more we are that harmonized field, then the effect in the world around us is massive. And that doesn't matter whether someone's using tapping for themselves and now their children come in, or they're looking after parents, and the energetics of healing can be magnified and magnified.
Magnified. I think of the two of us. How many ASEP conferences have we been to together and waved at each other in the hall?
Yeah.
And this time, 300 people in all the rooms, lots of noise, lots of practitioners, so many things going on in that hotel. And you and I ended up sitting next to each other, and it was like this.
Yeah,
that's energy connect. That's energy too.
That
right?
is.
So all those years that we have passed each other,
Yeah.
and this year we are in resonance.
Yeah, so beautiful. Well, I'm so glad of that, Carol. Okay, so you have recently launched a phenomenal YouTube channel where you are posting some very, very rich material. Can you share with us some about that?
Yes, so that's my favorite new project. So at Carol Looks Success on YouTube. And right now I'm doing a series on hidden blocks to success, but there are also many, many videos on different things, guilt about saying no, how to make decisions, all sorts of challenges that we all bump into around success issues. So that's my pet project, what I absolutely love doing. It came out of the books. It came out of my work. I just wanted to reach more people, and it's growing and it's fun. And I am plugged in when I'm doing it. I just love it. So that's been a lot. That's been a lot of fun, but it's at Carol Looks Success.
All right, fabulous. Well, I certainly love that site, and I really encourage people to go on and explore it. And also what I found is, doesn't matter whether you are already skilled with energy psychology and practices or brand new to it. Dipping your toe in Carol's work will bring really beautiful transformation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can also get some more free videos on the book portal. So I have free portals. So people say, oh, I don't want to don't buy the book. I don't care if you don't buy the book, but go to the free portal. So you can go to the yescode.com, put your name in, get all the free videos, or go to yescode.com/thank you. And that's for the other book, the gratitude book, and all sorts of exercises and videos and a 30-day challenge and fun stuff there to really change your life energetically.
Yeah.
Change your life, not just do something different, but really change it on that deep level that you and I understand and work with and have worked with for years and teach people how to do. We've got to change at a deep level.
Yeah, absolutely. And something, I'm saying it again, there's something about the place of increasing ease of changing at a deep level, because even those words, changing at a deep level, you can feel like, oh, that sounds hard work. That's a big thing. But it's not. And we can think about it just helping tend to a more full, enjoyable, trusting, settled nervous system way of being in the world. And then that little tweak again and a new change, and a little tweak again and a new change. So a really real invitation for anyone and everyone to explore any form of energy practice, and especially with such a beautiful, skilled woman as Carol. All right, Carol, thank you so much. I've loved that conversation, and I know that we will have touched some fields of truth in people's hearts.
Thank you, Prune. I look forward to our next conversation, because I can tell we're going to have many more.
I think so. Bye-bye.